I experienced this week a kind of seismic shift that threw me into a really, really deep and profound sadness. I had had lunch with a dear friend, and I had had a Skype talk with another dear friend, and I just realized afterward that we're so deeply unknowable to others and to ourselves that we create a persona, if you will, or we're experienced as a persona, and we parade it in the world, and we dialogue from it, about it, with it, and we exchange these insights with the other personas. And it's all, on some level, stabbing at something, but profoundly empty. The word fraud came up for me. That, in a sense, we have very fraud lives. And that our spiritual lives aid and abet that fraudulence. That we are pretending to be. Not without some feeling of authenticity, not without some sense of really deeply wanting to be the thing we're pretending to be. And maybe even in some cases affecting and becoming, in some level, a real manifestation of a character. And it's very painful to see beneath that character and to see how much of a construct it is and how essentially unreal and in some ways untenable our ego-minded self is. We don't face the truth of it very often because it's so painful. Because we're all looking for embrace, succor, comfort, either in others, significant others, teachers, friends, pastries, ice cream, on and on and on, on and on and on. And we all create these lives that day by day feel vaguely sustained by something. And underneath the role-playing and the presentation and the idea of being someone, there's often a really deep mess. An article in the New York Times today talked about how people's presentation on Facebook is so different from their Google searches. The presentation is always, oh, we just went to the Caribbean and I'm driving this great car and I have all this and I have all that. And the Google search is, why am I so miserable? Why is my life so terrible? And in a way, that's how we live. We really live an untruth on so many levels. And we do not face that. We do not want to face that. This is way too uncomfortable, and I'm sorry to any of you who are finding this ready to turn this off. Okay, done with that. You don't need to hear that. I get that. I totally get it. I get why we are who we are and what we are, and I understand ego-mindedness, and I understand its essential nature in the human journey and the drama that we all face. And none of us quite know what we're doing here, why we're here, how this came to be. And so we create an enormous fiction that's supported by everybody else's fiction. So we're all in it together. We're all manifesting it together, and it's reinforced by television and radio and music and our families. And we have this extraordinary sense of this is how it is and this is what it is. And it's not true. It's not what it is or how it is or what it is. It's an element. It's an element of what is. But the what is kind of the background noise in which it takes place. The environment, the atmosphere, and those aren't the right words, some people will call it the consciousness or the awareness, in which this human drama unfolds. And we are so engaged in it, and so in search of moment-to-moment comfort, pleasure, happiness, ease, avoidance of discomfort, some kind of hope for salvation, some kind of desire to have peace, that we're driven to find that in whatever we can, and usually in all the wrong places. And it's never really given. If we do attain it for any length of time, it tends to be, as Buddha called it, impermanent. And when you have a wake-up call to impermanence, you feel like really destabilized, because, well, what if this is all impermanent? Everything I'm reaching for, everything I'm holding on to, everything I grasp, everything that is meaningful to me and assuring to me and comforting to me isn't going to do the trick. And boy, is that profoundly destabilizing. Because when you understand that everything is going to fail you, meaning everything, what then? Here's the good part, the good news, along with the bad news. Here's the good news. When you get to that moment, you are ready for truth. When you get to that moment, you are ready to know who and what you are. When you get to that moment and everything falls away, what's left, if anything? I can give you answers to that, and I will, but the real answer will only come from you. The real answer will only come from your personal journey. It will not come from a teacher, or a guru, or a book, or a movie, or a song. It will come from you. All the others will reflect that. All the other things will lead you maybe into deeper parts of your own journey. But the truth is, you're on an adventure in the jungle of your own being, and you have to find your way to yourself. It would be wonderful if somebody else could give it to us. And in a way, others can help us. They help us in their kindness, in their compassion, in their listening, in their acknowledgement, in their understanding, and in their embrace. That helps. People who do the opposite, who cause you grief, who cause you suffering, who cause you misery, in a way help you too. But they help you because they turn you toward that which might actually feel loving, might actually accept you as you are. And there are people in life who do that. There are situations, organizations, environments that kind of take you in. But you will learn that whatever sustenance you get from these people and organizations and things is temporary. And you will get angry at that. You will feel betrayed by that. But it is in the contract you sign with existence that you only get to be here for a temporary period of time. And that being here is a journey into something that only you can discover. And you have what they call time as an opportunity to find this. Some people think they find it in education, in higher thought, or in the beauty of music, or in loving somebody else, or being loved by somebody else. And it's true, you do find that. But again, Buddhist teaching, it's going to go away. So that won't suffice. And some people get to the end of their life and discover, I have to leave all this? All this stuff that's sustaining me, I have to let go of? It's not there? Bad time to find that out. Not that it's the worst time, because something may come up at that second that will go, but here's the truth. On the other hand, there are paths to that truth that can happen to you here and now. And the path to that truth is that through the struggle of life and the pain and suffering of life and through the insufficiency of what's given, you will start to look elsewhere, and there are teachings that point inward. And they come from all over the place. The kingdom of heaven is within. The idea that you have this heart chakra, Nityananda said, go there and roam. There are things that you can begin to find that are not in the outer world, although they are accessed from this inner space and they do reflect the outer world. They go somewhere else. They go deep. And if you begin to go into the depth of who you are, into the depth of questioning, into the depth of that which inspires the journey, you may start to discover something. This is where practice comes in. This is where discipline comes in. This is where work comes in. If you can take responsibility for diving deep into your own inner being and make this a practice, meaning it's not an occasional jump off the deep end of the diving board, but it's a real effortful pursuit of something that goes and opens into a true unknown. Only if you do that will you begin to feel yourself on the adventure into your own being. So let me promote for a moment the idea of meditation. Not that I haven't promoted it a billion times before, but let me talk about it. There are two very restorative qualities in human life. One is sleep. Another is meditation. Sleep is essential because it allows you to experience a complete letting go of your involvement in and your investment in outer form. It takes you in, it invites you in, it compels you to go in, and you go there mostly willingly every night. Some of you less willingly, and some of you fight to try to get to it. Some of you fight to hold on to it. I'm part of that drama, so I get it. But you go to that place, and if you're lucky, you wake up in the morning renewed. You are back. You have somehow or another found the strength for another day, for another go at the mystery of life. But it doesn't provide you with awakening or consciousness or higher vision or deeper understanding unless you analyze dream life. It gives you this sense of having been offered rest and nourishment. The other nourishment comes from sitting in meditation. Meditation goes to the same place, I believe, that sleep goes to. The only difference is it goes there awake. And you get to go into a space of restoration. You go to a place where you can be renewed, reinvigorated with life. This place, when you go there awake, has a power to make it all worthwhile, profound, satisfying, vibrant. These are all qualities that come from going deep into this meditative still-pointedness. Now, it's hard to do. And it's hard to do for one reason. Our mind doesn't like it. Our mind wants to stay busy. It's programmed to stay busy. It's programmed to look at the future and figure out what's going to happen and use the past as an example, and it's constantly reweaving these equations to make it possible for you to get through the next moment in a healthy, vibrant way. But the mind is very noisy and very distracted by all sorts of things, and it doesn't know how to be still. Meditation is sitting still against the better wishes of your mind. So it's a real struggle. For most people, it's an effort until it's not. In the beginning, it's almost always an effort. And I will compare it to going to the gym, where lifting a weight for some people, 20-pound weight, 10-pound weight, is really difficult. And yet you're watching people lifting 100-pound weights, pressing 300-pound weights, and you know it's doable, but you are at the beginning, let's say, and that 20-pound weight is really hard, and you start to lift it and you have muscle aches for 2 days, and you go, that was no fun, I didn't like that, I don't want to work that hard, why would I do that? And then you don't. You stop going to the gym because it's hard. Those who succeed at the gym have what I call discipline. Discipline means you go no matter what. You don't make a choice every day, am I going to go or am I not going to go? Because, as I've said many times, you always choose not to go in the end. There's always a good reason, always a good reason. I don't like the teacher, I don't like the other people, so has body odor. You go on and on. Millions of good reasons not to do. There are just as many good reasons not to meditate, not to sit still once a day. Lots of good reasons. And if you don't have a discipline, you'll find those reasons and you won't do it, which means you will not find a restoration in your daily life, only in sleep if you're lucky. The restoration that comes from meditation is of a different nature than the one that comes in sleep, because in meditation what happens is you are present. You are aware and present to this extraordinary, comforting, embracing, loving energy. But you can't get to it with your mind, with your ego, with your thought process. You have to abandon that. And so all these meditation practices give you things to do. You can have mantras, you can have breathing exercises. They're just things to do to keep your mind distracted while you try to dive deep into this place that finally goes, hi, you got here. Wow, welcome. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable. Relax. Take a nap. Feel good. Be happy. It just takes you in. And the mind thing is just like way out there. And you're just going, oh, this is very sweet. Wow. And you sit there and you feel so good. You just feel present, yourself. What you've always been looking for in other people, in relationship, in pastries, in everything that life has to offer, you found it. It just happens to be right there. And you go there, and you sit, and you become refreshed and renewed and reawakened, and then you return into the world with that connection. And you have a really simple day. Now, when you come back, your mind may jump at you very quickly and go, what are you wasting your time like that for? You could have been doing this, you could have gone to work, you could have, God knows, made more money. Whatever the thing is your mind tells you could have been doing, and if you're smart, you will not pay attention to that. If you're not smart, or if you are addicted to your mind, as is mostly the case, you'll get caught up in that again. So the next time you go to sit, your mind will be right back where it is, like you have more important things to do. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to blah, 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 blah. Or you could just be watching TV. Then you don't have to work, then you don't have to do anything, you can just lie there. You'll get the same feeling. Not true. If you watch TV, you're watching CSI, whatever, you're seeing people being murdered, killed, things being solved. The craziness of TV that creates for us a world of endless drama. That's all TV is dramas that get resolved. The world is not as dramatic as TV. The world is not TV. TV is the source of most of our problems, or of many of our problems, because it's so mindful, it's so noisy, it's so distracting. The whole idea is let go of TV, let go of podcasts, let go of the news, let go of everything for 20 minutes and sit down, go deep. Whatever mechanism you use, I keep pointing at my heart because that's a good place to go. But there are lots of centers, but the idea is go deep inside, sit still, go through the noise of the brain. It will be active for about 4 minutes. Oh, 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 ah, ah. And you're back where you belong. You're back where the world can't get you, where the world has little impact, where you are safe, where you are who you are. Your mind can't enter that space, so it can't explain it to you. It cannot tell you what it is. It cannot give you a future for it or a past for it. It cannot explain the mystery of it or the wonder of it. It just is. And you know it is because you're there. You're right there. And you're going, yes. Somewhere along the line, this becomes a more dominant space. A space that becomes more meaningful and more vigorous than the outside world, and the outside world at some point loses its hold on you. Your mind, your story, your fiction, your narrative just stops being quite so important, and this becomes your space of connection. Not only does it restore you, it maintains you. It is your guide, it is your navigational system, it is your truth, and it leads you through your life. That's what we're doing here. And if you awaken or have enlightenment, you understand that you don't ever have to leave here. That this place is the truth, and all of this other stuff is its own fiction. Not that you won't buy into it, because we keep going back to the fiction. We go back to it all the time, and we go out to lunch with people and we reinforce the fiction. We live with people who keep throwing the fiction at us. So how can you not buy into it? You do buy into it. But there comes a point, like this lunch this week, where it suddenly went, it's just fiction. And I got so sad. I got so sad. I love this friend, and I love these people that I'm with in my life. I love them, but we don't get to it. We don't get there. We get here, which is fine. The world is fine. I don't want to say the world isn't fine, but it doesn't take care of it, and it's going to evaporate. And so when I left that lunch, I had the option to be driven home, and I chose not to. I chose to walk home. And as I'm walking, I'm feeling the overwhelming sadness of loss, that this fiction isn't sustaining me anymore. And I love it. I love the trees and the beauty of everything and the people in it and all the drama and all the stuff of life. I love it, but it isn't what is. It's just a temporary manifestation of the is. And so I just kept walking, and I knew I only had one place to go, and I did this thing I talked about last week. I did the work, and I took a breath. When I meditate, I usually exhale through my nose, but I've been exhaling through my mouth because it's much more present. And I just let this stuff go. I just let it go, and I did it all day long, and I watched the world leave me. I just watched it leave me. And the sadness didn't completely go away, but it didn't matter, because it is sad. It's sad. On some fundamental level, it's sad. It's a kind of root element in the reality of life. It's a root thing. But it's not sad like I'm losing. It's sad because it never was on some level. It's sad because you are so wildly alone in this. But I don't mean you personally. I mean the universe itself is singular. It's singular. It's one. And in its oneness, it desperately would like two-ness. It would love two-ness. It creates otherness. It creates duality. It creates all of this because it wants it. It hungers for it on some level, but it also knows as it's doing it that it's a fiction. It's a fraud. It's not real. It's temporarily real. It's got reality in it because it emerges from this truth. But ultimately it all goes back to singularity, oneness. And there is a sadness that reaches out to make life and then returns to itself and is comforted by its own being, by what it is, by its truth, by its essence. The only way you're going to trust anything I'm saying is sit. Go sit. Stop, sit, stay. Do it long enough. Do it deep enough to find that what I'm talking about is true, that you can get past the noise of your brain, you can get past your frustration and your desire to go back out and play and your desire to be distracted. You can get past all that if you try. And the balance of going in versus the imbalance often of being out, finding that balance is what this is about. Find the balance between the inner and the outer, because it's everything. It's everything. And that balance has such harmony. And ultimately, the balance is really between inner and outer, and then outer disappears completely, and the only thing left is what is within. And I say that like I know. And I may be wrong even about that. But all I can tell you, once you have processed the sadness, once you have processed the need to create a self, the need to create a narrative, a story, the need to reinforce it and share it with the world, to tell everybody how happy you are when you're going on Google saying, how can I get happy? That inner untruth has to be changed. It has to be worked through, and I don't know any way to do it other than what I'm telling you. There may be 1,000 other ways, and if you find them wonderful, I can only tell you this will work. Go deep, find yourself, and be comforted and restored and revived and reawakened, so you can then face the unreality that feels so real in the world. That's the journey we're on. Every one of us has to do it on their own. Nobody can get it from anybody else. The closest you come, and I will say this, is a teacher or a guru who can hug you from the depth of their being, from the depth of oneness. That's a help. The guru who shares with you the oneness that they are tasting can actually help lead you to your own shared oneness. That helps. But they're rare. They're very rare. So the true guru, even the outer guru, but the true guru is in you. And the guru in you is as real and valid and vibrant as any outer guru you'll ever meet. But one way or the other, find your way home. Find your way to that which restores and revives you, because, otherwise you're going to be lost in a world that's going to evaporate and leave you in a state of profound confusion. So do the work. Any questions?
Not quite sure where to go with this, but when I was 16 or so, I was profoundly confused and depressed about reality. And I felt like it never got resolved, and I just decided, oh well, and proceeded with my life. And so I'm just wondering if, I guess that's, when you're talking, it made me think of that time. And I've never forgotten that. I mean, it was maybe a 2-year span where I asked my parents, I asked lots of people. There just was no...
That's why you're sitting here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. Whatever that confusion was big enough and destabilizing enough to put you on this search. And, I would say in many ways you have found what you're looking for, but there's still mental things in you that keep being a little uncertain of it, because the mind will always be uncertain of that, and finally you just have to go, okay, be uncertain. Because I sit with you and I know how stable you are, and how real you are, and how achieved in many ways, and how restored you are week by week. I see it. It's there. So that's all I can say. The answer to the problem and to the confusion does not exist. The answer as an answer does not exist. What does exist is this. And it has no answer at all. At all. It can't even formulate the question. It's just, that's all there is. Now, I like to say I can be completely wrong on all of this, in which case your sitting here is meaningless. On the other hand, if you feel it's meaningless, then don't come. And if it feels meaningful, or that it's directive, then good. If it's not, I'm not trying to create something, a false space where people can come and feel, oh, thank God I found it, because I haven't found it. There's no finding exactly. There just is arriving. It sounds like finding, but it's not, because you come to a place you've never left. It's always there. Okay. Sorry, is there another follow-up?
Yeah, well, there is a follow-up. So I think how it manifests now is that every moment, almost every moment, I think, what should I be doing now? And there's like this time pressure that I feel. But if I break it down, it's just not knowing what I should be doing.
Well, I'll tell you my experience with that, because if the mind gets in, it does ask that question. Put the mind aside, which is something for me now that I don't have to do because it's just kind of aside. Doing happens. I don't have to ask. Something happens. I can be just sitting in a chair, and then it says, oh, go to the bathroom. Oh, get a cup of tea. Oh, go for a walk. Oh, take a picture. Oh, call the grandchildren. Something comes up, a doing of sorts. I'm at a point in life where it's not, I have to 9 to 5, or I don't have school and tests and drama and all that, and who am I going to date? And that's all over. And it will be over for everybody at some point. But boy, what a relief. But my what do you do now is a very, if I had to bring it as like a question mark, and sometimes I do, I say, well, what do I do with the rest of my life now? All I'm going to do is be. I have this friend, Jeff Foster, who's this wonderful non-dualist teacher, and even that would just disturb him to hear those words. But he awakened at the age of 20-something. And it's like, what's he going to do? He's got nothing to do. And yet he's one of the most content, open, beautiful human beings I have ever come across. And he just lives the day-to-day experience. And he talks about this because one can't help that. And he teaches, even though he doesn't even know that he has anything to say. And he's a brilliant teacher. Jeff Foster, if you look him up online, he's just absolutely extraordinary English guy. And I really worried about him. I think, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? He and I are in the same boat. I just happen to be at the end of the game, and he's early in the game, but it's the same thing. The day happens. It happens in phenomenal ways. If you're led into doing, you do. If you're not led into doing, you be. But doing is a form of being, and if you don't have to leave being to do, which is what many people do. They just get into doing. And they completely forget that they're being. You're a human being first, not a human doing. You're a human being. That's what we are. And it's important to know that. Okay. Did you get a question?
Yeah, I did, and that sort of put in my head all these things.
Oh.
But I did want to say, when you go through life, and yes, sleep provides release from the tension, and meditation for your 20-30 minutes, you can get a point where you release your tension. And you listen to that inner voice, and I'll just say from my own perspective, like the past few months have been like a blow up. And you go, okay, as Shelley says, what should I do? And you listen to that voice and you follow it. But it takes you way out of your comfort zone, way out to the total unknown, and you don't know who you are anymore, or your role in the world. And by following that voice, and you trust that voice, even though it might not be logical, it creates such a level of tension in myself. I guess what I wanted to ask you, there was sort of two things, and it was about you being a teacher. In that 2 weeks ago you said you were teaching this yoga class, and then you said, hey, I can teach this meditation. And I'm curious, because responsibility is a big thing in my life. What am I responsible for? What am I not responsible for? Because the world can dump things on you. And did you feel like, oh, that's a big responsibility? And how did that evolve? And when you look at us, and you see how open we are, how do you assess our level of tension? Is it by how closed we are, or open, or?
Well, quickly. I was teaching a Hatha Yoga class at a university because I wanted to share what I had, and I couldn't go in and teach meditation because I don't think they would have known what to do with that. But they let me teach Hatha Yoga, and I would have a period at the end of deep relaxation. that people really responded to. And at the end of that teaching, I said, because I've been teaching meditation for years at Rudy's ashram, I just said, if you guys want to carry this further, you can do it, but we can't do it here under the auspices of the university, so you can come to my home and I can teach you meditation. And most of the class signed up for that, which was great. It was not a question mark in my mind of should I, shouldn't I. It just was the natural following out of that. As for evaluating you, when I teach, there's no evaluator present. There's nobody present. All there is what you described, is this deep, unknowing navigational system that leads something, a kind of awareness, consciousness, into places that seems to be held in check. It not flowing, there's something not quite in play that wants to release. And it goes right into that place, just like, I guess, people who do Reiki and other healings, it just goes there, and it goes, bloop, it undials it. It unlocks it. And it does that regularly, so regularly, that I can rely on it doing that. I do not participate in thinking in any way about what I'm doing. I am following and allowing this energy to come in, and it's a guidepost. It also moves my hands, as you know, in the class, and it goes to a certain particular space, a vibrational space in a way, and it does something. And if you ask me what it is, I couldn't explain it at all. But I know it works because it works internally in me. And I know because I've watched all of you over time, seeing this thing get released and released. Really old, sometimes perhaps many lifetimes old, locked tensions that just go bloop. But I don't identify them as a tension. I don't do anything with them mentally. I just find my way there in the same way I do with my own inner being and let it open. It's really extraordinary. And it just frees things more deeply than, and it's what Rudy used to do for me. Rudy would go into me and just open doors, take the lock. He would do everything to get me to be open, and it took him a couple, so I was with him for 7 years and it wasn't finished by any means, but he had opened up so many doors, he had shown me so many paths that I had a lifetime or many lifetimes worth of possibilities as a result of it. But the guide system took me this way, this way, this way, and when he left the planet, when he left the earth, I was more on my own than ever, but I had a system in place that told me how to go and where to go, and it's kept me working till this minute. There's something that knows. In every one of us, there's something that knows. We override it a lot with our minds because the minds and our tension of fear and all of that gets in the way. But often it's a very, very delicate balance, and what you're describing, what you describe so beautifully, this taking away of everything that is secure and taking away knowing, and putting you on an uncharted journey is terrifying on some level. And the mind can choose to be terrified as you go on it, or it can choose not to be terrified. What's so important and very special about you is you don't hold back. You just go through, you just take, you keep moving through the jungle. Fearful as you may be, you keep on it. And that's very powerful. And that's something in me relates to that in you. It sees the courage. And, in the same way in a movie we respond to the courage and we respond to people who take on big efforts. Something in us just nurtures that. Yes, yes, yes. Luke Skywalker trying to save us from the Death Star and trying all these things, and you're going, figure it out, work it out. And then hearing that voice from Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, trust the Force, Luke. And he turns everything off. And he trusts the Force. We are like, yes, yes. That's what this class is. It's like a yes, yes to every time you get to turn off the computer and trust the Force. That's all this class is. It's complete, endless affirmation of that effort. And it supports it, it lifts it up, and it makes it happen. That's what meditation in its deepest form is. That's what this class is about. And anybody who wants to do it finds a rooting interest that is very powerful. Anyone else? Yes.
I was at a wedding shower yesterday that I was invited to, and I didn't want to really go there because I didn't want to support the fantasy. It was like, but I went because I was my friends, close friends, and her daughter, and And then there were other realtors that I knew that were at this thing, and I chose to sit at this table where I knew nobody, because I was like, I don't want to play the game. I don't want to play this game that's in this room right now, or that I feel is in this room right now. And so I sat down at the table. It turns out to be the groom's family.
Well, it's going to be somebody's family, right?
Sister, right.
Yeah.
But they were great, and I had a good time. But the whole time I'm there, I'm just watching the game that everyone's participating in, and I just found it really. I just couldn't participate.
That's what I'm talking about.
I just
mostly.
couldn't.
I'm talking about that, and you can. For me, that not participating
Painful.
was very sad, just
Yeah.
so sad. But you see it. Life is a construct, and it is a game, and as you put it, it's a fantasy, and we all live in support of it on one level. But in terms of our Google searches, we're not so important. We're really like, what am I doing?
Right.
How do I live this? Because it's not true, it's not real, it's all a fabrication on some level. And we know that, and the more you know that, the more destabilizing it is, and we do everything not to know that, to just be in the game. It's much safer and more freeing to be in the game, but you're only causing yourself more potential stress later, because at some point you know the game is going to stop playing and you're going to be out of it. And you're going to have to see it at that point. When do you choose to let yourself see it? You know, I mean, there are going to be people who've turned this one off already because, I don't want to know that. Don't tell me that. And then there are people who are hungering for this and would like us to give them the final answer, which doesn't exist, other than you are on a journey to truth. You are. That journey is dispiriting on some level, but it is full of what you've been looking for. So, courage.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I'm finding that, you know, after my dad passed away and we bought the house and, you know, inheritance and all that kind of stuff's done, and we're going through, I'm starting to remodel. But the whole point of it, and the whole reason I chose to stay with this house, was that I could create a small living space for myself that was supported by the rest of the house, so I don't know what that means, where that's going to take me, but that's where we could be, where we've got a space that is small and not a lot of stuff.
Well, it's going to be in a big house, though, so it's
a big house,
a lot of support.
Yeah, but the house financially could support the space.
But let me just say,
Anyway,
I understand that, and we're all, every time one piece of the illusion disappears, we try to create another piece, because, well, that didn't work, so maybe this will work. Maybe if I moved to that house, or I moved to that town, or I married this person, or I got that thing, that would be the thing that would take care of it. It will not. It will be fine. It'll be a nice room. You'll be happy to go in that room, but it will not take care of it. It does not take care of the big question mark of what is, who am I. It's just another place to sit and wait until you can get to that.
Right.
Not wrong to do, but it will not be the answer.
No, I don't think it's the answer. I think what the answer for that space, for me, at least right now, appears to be, because it seems to be compelling for me, is to have that space be, to create that space where I can be.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, truly, I think
mean?
that's wonderful. I will tell you in the end, and this is a painful thing, take away all those spaces, and you've got to find the space where you can be here, wherever you are. That's hard, because the where you are may not be in any way sort of reflected in your wishes of where you could be. So you have to let go of the wishes and go, I can be me here, whatever this is. And believe me, there are millions of delusions around that, because nobody knows what it's like to to find that out until you really take away their home and their comfort zone and their car and their wealth and whatever it is they take away, or their little. When people start taking it away, everything you think you believe gets thrown out, and you start all over, and it's really terrifying. But you always see these people on the news after the hurricane comes or the tornado. They say, well, at least we have each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but 2 weeks later, be with those people. They've lost everything. Right. They've lost everything. And they have to now remake it, and they're going to try to remake it in the mold of the old thing, but they will always feel unbearable loss. Like, last week I talked about losing a money clip. Imagine losing your house, your life, your loved ones, all of that stuff. And we don't even know what we're talking about here when I talk about, the illusion goes away, or the fantasies of life go away. We are holding on to things you don't even know you're holding on to until it's gone. So this is a really powerful journey for everybody. And the only thing I can say is, at the core, deepest part of our being, it's okay. It's okay. Find that root, because it will support you no matter what. For some people it's religion, it's a belief system, whatever it may be. Find your way to it. It will be challenged, but you will find that's a place you can work toward that will reinforce, reinvigorate, and restore you. Okay? I'm going to stop there. Thank you, guys.